the most John Waters movie now directed by John Waters. Bears on Drugs, Haunted Houses, Worms, and R.I.P. to our bestie.
We knew it was coming.
We did. We called it. It's so... Does it? But that's... Okay. Well, I won't talk about it now, but... Ugh.
Also, I gotta start off the show with MILF Manor Minute, coined by Kate.
MILF Manor Minute.
We need a jingle. Because, Mary Beth.
Oh, no.
Last week, we had the first mother-son pairing leave and a new pairing come into the house.
Oh, my God. Okay.
You will not believe in a million years, the woman that walked into the door. Lisa motherfucking Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Alice, in other words, walked in through the fucking door with her son.
Wait, your favorite Final Girl specifically?
Specifically.
What? Is this real?
Walked in through the front door with her son.
You know, honestly, not in a million years I would have guessed that. That is not a crossover. Once again, the weird older woman pipeline, horror to like reality show pipeline is insane. Wait. Did the... I mean, like, immediately I would have been like, oh, cool, so, like, now it's a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, and this has all just been an incredible ruse.
It feels like a
and
fucking
honestly,
fever dream.
I wish that was... Man, what if they fucking relaunched a franchise like Nightmare on Elm Street via reality show and, like, no one knew?
Oh my God, that'd be perfect.
Fuck. But... What?
I don't even know what to say. It was, I mean, unfortunately, sorry, Tony, he kind of spoiled it for me because, like, he DM'd me Lisa's post. I keep wanting to call her Alice. Lisa's post on Instagram and was like, you kind of buried the lead here that Alice is on. And I was like, I had no idea.
You're like, I didn't know.
Just literally showed up this week. What the fuck? Worlds colliding. And the fact that it was my favorite Final Girl is just like, excuse me?
Is she a MILF?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. I mean,
she's very attractive.
I haven't seen any pictures of her.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
And then
Good for her.
the challenge this week, and I hesitate to call it a challenge, but I guess for some of the boys it was a challenge. They did sex ed. The women led sex ed.
Oh my God.
They had a giant, pretty detailed picture of a vagina with labeling instructions without the names.
Labeling.
It's funny you should say that because one of the women asked one of the boys, where's the labia? And he pointed directly to the vagina, the vagina opening. And I was like, okay, I am Kinsey Six Strictly Dickly, and I know more about female anatomy than these straight boys. What the fuck?
Okay, I heard someone call themselves a Kinsey Six Gay the other day on TikTok, and I've never heard that before, and you just saying that, it's my fucking favorite. It's just so fucking funny. Sorry, away.
It's from Easy A. It's from Easy A. That's what I, that's, that's where I know
I haven't seen that fucking movie in a minute. Anyway, wait, also poor, okay, look, Lisa Wilcox, get your bag, however, but, oh God, like...
Oh,
ooh.
So one of the women, and this is where my face was like, what is happening? One of the women asked for her son because like each of the women comes up and pulls one of the sons. One of the women pulled up her own son and was asking questions. I'm like, this is awkward as in of itself. No, but then someone asks for Lisa's son and is asking about like what he does and what his style is. And so on top of this very big diagram of vagina, there is two mannequins, a male and a female mannequin, or male and female presenting mannequins. And then there's a bunch of fruit in sexually suggestive shapes. And then there's also sex toys.
Come on, guys. Where's the originality?
And so they ask him about his like foreplay technique. And he says, I'm a big fan of oral. And so he takes an orange, puts it down in the genitalia area on the female mannequin, and the camera goes in close on his mouth as he is licking it and using his lips on it and just going to town on that orange. Purpurina says, well, I guess that clementine is staying in my lunchbox. Yeah, I was like, what is happening right now? What is happening? They have a 90s party, and Joey, the young boy,
were any of them
20,
born in the 90s?
Well,
and I say that as someone who was and is like in her 20s still. Do any of them remember what the 90s were? Shit.
Well, Joey is 20, and he says, and this is his quote, you're going to need a visual for this, listeners. So if you're not paying for Patreon, I'm sorry, but he says, I was just a sperm sitting in the eggs. And that's what he does.
What?
Girl, I don't know. I don't know if he meant eggs as in like testicles, but I was like, I don't think that's how it works, dude. The psychic damage from this discussion will keep me from being able to drive home.
I can't even speak and
try
like,
watching
give you reactions. Yeah, I'm like, wow, I'm actually rather impressed because I don't even know. Like, I feel like it all just speaks for itself. I don't. I'm like that Lisa Simpson meme of her just going. Like
in Spanish, you can say huevos and meatballs. That is true. That is a true statement. But I just don't get the vibe that kid is maybe that smart. Like no,
not to be rude, but I just don't get the vibe that they are maybe the brightest bulbs in the box.
No, they're not. But jealousy, they get to swim with fucking whale shark.
Okay, see, this is what fucking pisses me off. That these fucking people who have no idea how cool it is to do what they're doing get like to go do this shit on TV when I'm like, I would actually appreciate that. That's not fucking fair. You fucking morons get to go do these things.
It was so gorgeous. It was so gorgeous. I'm like, oh, a whale shark. I'm so jealous. But yeah, that was my MILF Manor minute. This week was a lot.
Wow.
Lisa fucking Wilcox. What?
Yeah, that's insane. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that feels like just like a fever dream you just told me about.
But speaking of, I guess, fever dreams, let's go with Bears on Drugs.
Okay, so finally I can talk. I'm talking about 2 titles today that I can finally talk about that I saw a bit ago, and it's like, finally everything's fucking coming out. So this is obviously Cocaine Bear, which of the publication of this episode is in theaters. It is what the box says it is. It's a bear that does cocaine and just wreaks havoc upon a bunch of people in the mountains. When I first watched it, I was initially kind of like, it's fine. It's, it's a bear hunting people down.
Getting interrupted by a train.
Wow.
Excuse you.
Wow. That's how I feel about Cocaine Bear. But it's basically like a drug. It's like a drug comedy movie with the bear on cocaine. And I was like, the premise like doesn't go as far. Like I feel like a party pooper because I was like, I know what this is supposed to be, and like I'm not poo-pooing on that, but it's just I was like, I just don't know if this was maybe perhaps like the thing that they wanted it to be. But then I kind of sat on it a little bit and I was like, actually it is a pretty incredible like parody of drug movies. And and I think that once I started thinking about it that way, I kind of was like, okay, wait, I get it now. Like I get it. And I think I watched it at home on my computer, so like I didn't get the full effect because I think this is a really good movie to watch with people because there are so many. Look, the gore is everywhere. It's like some of the kills are like insane. There are parts where I was just like yelling or I wanted to yell. So I mean, I think it's definitely worth seeing in a theater. I think it's going to be really fun to see in a theater.
I'm gonna try to see it this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think now that I'm like reflecting on it more, I think it's a really good time. It's definitely like more of a drug comedy like drug trafficking gone wrong, like comedy with the bear kind of sprinkled in is not doing it justice. There is a decent amount of bear and gore in it. But yeah, so it's fun. It is fun. Like, it's just fucking ridiculous. It leans into being ridiculous. Like, Jesse Tyler Ferguson's in the worst wig and mustache I've ever seen.
Oh my god!
And he's like plays.
I didn't know he was in that.
He plays a park. I think it's not a ranger, but somebody just researched at the park that Margot Martindale's character, who's a park ranger, has a crush on. And there's like that whole thing is just like really their whole dynamic is very just like improving off each other, and it's funny. Kerry Russell is in it. Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's got like, I love Elizabeth Banks, but it like borders on like a little bit like kind of I feel like just an old person saying immature humor, but like sometimes like poop jokes and like stuff like that, and it's not terrible, but it's got like that twinge of that in it. So I had a good time.
Okay.
It's funny. It's gotta be really fun to see in a theater. The bear eats a lot of cocaine. Like, there's a lot of the bear on cocaine. A lot of people having like standoffs, and then a bear like at one point there's a cop like sitting on top of like a fucking gazebo, and they're having like a classic shoot off, and then the bear shows up, and they start sprinkling cocaine around to get the bear away from them.
Oh my god.
So they're like it's like all these moments of like cop shootouts and like trying to hide the coke, and then the bear shows up and like rips off arms. So like that's what I'm saying, is like kind of poking fun at that. It's like, what if these ridiculous movies had something even more ridiculous in it, and it is a bear who absolutely fucking loves coke.
Yeah, he sold it right there for me, honestly.
Yeah. It's like dumb, but it knows it's dumb. You know, like, I'm sorry, like it's dumb in a good way. It's just ridiculous. It's like, it's not trying to say anything other than like,
don't give cocaine to bears.
Don't give cocaine to bears. So yeah, that's Cocaine Bear. Good
Winnie
time.
the Pooh double feature.
Seriously though, I watched them in the same week, and I was like, why am I? This is very weird. It's the year of the bear. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyway, what about this Baz Luhrmann-esque movie that is not directed by Baz Luhrmann?
So I have been wanting to see this for a while, because it was getting such a divisive reaction from people. And so I sat down to watch the 3-hour and 10-minute movie Babylon. Okay,
cool. Curious to hear your thoughts, because I have not seen this yet.
I fucking loved it.
Really?
I
okay.
fucking loved it.
Okay.
I would say the first act and the third act is the best. It kind of loses a little bit steam in the opening hour, in the middle hour. But
the middle hour, Jesus Christ. Ah, yes. The first and third hours were exquisite, but the second hour...
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to poo it, but it was... But see, here's the thing. This movie opens with a man named... Oh my gosh. Manuel Torres, played by Diego Calva, who is trying to wrangle an elephant up to the house of Jack Conrad, played by Brad Pitt, who is like this huge film producer, film director, actor, big guy that is in film. And he's trying to get this elephant. And they hired someone who thought he was getting a horse or bringing a horse up a hill. And there's this giant elephant. They get the elephant on, and they're trying to pull this elephant up the hill. And the rope is starting to break, and the hook is starting to come off. They're trying to run out there and push on the back of this truck. The elephant decides to start shitting all over everyone. And then it ends up rolling back down the hill, and it becomes like this whole big thing, which immediately transitions to this party where I don't know how they managed to film this party that is like, it feels like hundreds of people in various states of undress, fucking. There's a band playing. There is this giant elephant that walks in at one point, and the camera is just moving from the top of this place down to the bottom. It looks so extravagant. It looks like a Baz Luhrmann movie come to life in like a different way. It's just, the scale is so fucking huge. It's so propulsive in this beginning part. I'm laughing. Margot Robbie is drunk and crashing her car into a statue outside, and then managing to convince herself to get inside, and she's a nobody, but she's trying to sell herself off as somebody. People are doing drugs. There is like, it is fucking wild, and I was laughing so fucking much. And it kind of charts, it goes from there immediately to a film set where they're out in the desert, and there's like 5 or 6 movies all filming within like earshot of each other, and they're running out of cameras, and Manny is trying to run around and get stuff, and it follows him. It follows Margot Robbie's character. It follows Brad Pitt's character. Mm-hmm. And then it follows a couple other miscellaneous characters as they kind of maneuver their way from the silent pictures into talkies, and the struggles that happened with actors and filmmakers at that time, when the Hays Code starts to get introduced, when there's like a bunch of people get kicked to the side. And it kind of shows this idea, this big picture idea of like what it takes to make a film, and then how easily disposable you are afterwards. And so the middle section is really important. There's such a kinetic energy in that first hour that like it feels like you just hit the brakes. It's very important for this little middle section because it really starts to dig into the themes that I think Damien Chazelle, is that how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah.
Is trying to kind of incorporate into his movie. At one point, it turns into a fucking horror movie with like a cameo performance that I'm not going to ruin, that like goes into this like underground tunnel that just keeps going deeper and deeper. At each level, there's more absurdities happening, and it's like horrifying. It's a wild ass movie that I can understand why it doesn't work for everybody, but for me, this was perfection. I loved this movie. This movie is probably neck and neck with Triangle of Sadness as my favorite thing that I watched last year.
Wow.
Although I watched it this year, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't. I've heard a bunch about it, but I was mostly, again, like Twitter reactions of people being like, "LOL, what is this?" But I love Whiplash. His first movie. I haven't seen it. I didn't see La La Land. It's like the thing about some of his stuff is just like it's just not for me. A lot of his work, which is wild because Whiplash I fucking loved, but I feel like to me, I haven't seen it, so I think maybe that's prematurely judging. I just feel like not as intense as what Whiplash was, but I think he's not trying to be that way. I think he is trying to maybe pivot. But I do want to see Babylon. I'm very curious, especially after hearing you like it so much.
I loved it.
Okay.
He also has written some like horror things. He apparently wrote the story for The Last Exorcism Part 2.
He also wrote 10 Cloverfield Lane. Oh shit.
Yeah.
And like Whiplash, have you seen Whiplash?
Whiplash is a horror movie.
I was gonna say Whiplash is a horror movie. Like the writing and the tension in that movie is redonkulous in terms of just like being the most
Yeah, this movie made me sad by the end because it shows like how disposable you are in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, and I thought it was very effective in that regard. Because I have not seen La La Land, but I've heard that La La Land kind of makes like a candy colored like representation of Hollywood.
Yeah, and that's kind of.
And this one starts that way, and then does not end that way.
Okay, I've heard it's like got a pretty like ending. So.
You know, Purpurina, it probably would be a good watch party movie. I'd have to think about that with intermission because I definitely think I definitely think there are like 3 concrete points in this. There's the middle extravagance section, and then the beginning extravagance, and there's the middle where he's trying to build out his theme and introduce all these characters. And then the third is where everything starts to come together. So you probably could put at least 2 short intermissions in there.
Okay.
Probably.
All right. Well,
but yeah, that was Babylon. I really recommend it, but it's not going to be for everybody.
Cool.
Haunted houses.
So this is Christopher Landon's new movie. We Have a Ghost. This is the new Netflix movie that, again, as of the publication of the episode, it is on Netflix. This is Christopher Landon's latest movie. He did Freaky, he did both Happy Death Day movies, and he did Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, which I feel like people don't mention a lot with him now, but I'm like, never forget. He directed a very good part of that franchise. And he deserves kudos for that. Anywho, the only
I've not seen that one.
The only one that isn't all about white people living in like affluent houses and big houses. It actually follows like Latinx youth and living in an apartment complex rather than it being like. Anyway, this is not Paranormal Activity and Mark Twain's discussion. But this is his newest movie that I feel is has very much like Steven Spielberg, like epic kind of coming of age horror-ish movie.
Okay.
I feel there's a lot of similarity. It's like it's got E.T. vibes a little bit, but
okay.
Because so the movie follows this family who moves into a new house. Jahi Dalo Winston plays Kevin, who is like he's kind of the teenager who is upset that they have moved again. Anthony Mackie plays his dad Frank, and then he has his mom and his brother. And it's like pretty obvious the dad has had to cause him to move a bunch of times. And so, Kevin's kind of quiet and like, an angsty teenager who likes to play guitar and like everyone makes fun of him. But then he meets the ghost that haunts the house. His name is Ernest. And is played by David Harbour, and perhaps the most un-David Harbour role I've ever seen, in that he has like this shitty comb over. And is like, he has no dialogue, so he doesn't talk the entire movie. He's silent. So like the kind of commanding presence he's known to have is very much softened, which is actually really cool to see him like look at that range. But instead of just being like a haunted house movie though, it becomes like, oh, his dad, like Frank discovers there's a ghost and they record the ghost and put it on YouTube and it goes viral and everyone learns about Ernest. But then the government learns about Ernest and it becomes this like big, like the government's coming to get Ernest for experimenting, and Tig Notaro plays the scientist who is like leading up these efforts from the CIA to like do ghost experiments and stuff. And like it's really big in scope, like bigger than a lot of his other films. I think he also probably had much bigger budgets to play with this time, which is awesome. And like for the most part though, it's handled really well. It's 2 hours and 7 minutes long. So it's long, but I never really felt the length. I think that there are some parts that like, there's just a lot of characters and a lot of things that are like trying to get resolved at once. So it can be like a little bit kind of like, oh shit, like where are we in terms of like this storyline and this storyline? But I think Landon for the most part handles it really well in terms of like juggling lots of storylines, but then also really making this really good, incredible relationship between Kevin and Ernest, as like Kevin has a father figure now, and the father figure is a literal fucking ghost. And then it's just like, it's very sweet. It's not really scary. Like, it's very much like kind of gateway horror vibes in that there's like a ghost and some spooky stuff, but it's not like a horror movie. So it's not, it's not a freaky kind of slasher, and it's not like Happy Death Day. It's a little bit more wholesome. But I think Christopher Landon does like balance that really well between making kind of like these bright, entertaining, kind of fun horror movies that have darker bents to them. I think he's like kind of a really good example of someone who knows how to make like a really fucking entertaining, good horror movie. And I think that this movie continues to speak to that without being like super horror-y, but he knows how to bring in the darker elements. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure what this was going to be like, and it is very Christopher Landon, but with a lot more money, and honestly good for him. I had a lot of fun watching it. It's very heartwarming. It's very sweet. Yeah,
I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
Also, former guest of the show, Whitney Ann Adams, did the costume design for it.
She designed the coolest bowling shirt of all time. She keeps posting about it, and I love the bowling shirt. Like, it's so good, and I guess they handmade a ton of them, which is so cool.
Okay.
So that's
if you haven't, awesome. Go listen to our episode with her.
Yeah,
Ghost.
She's super cool, and the costume work is awesome. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah. But then wow. Nope. Buffer. Nope.
So this was and I didn't realize until literally today that I had kind of done a double feature of movies that felt like other people's movies until today. But this was one of my backlog movies recommended by Justin Nordell, friend of the show, and also former guest. Go listen to his episode on Tremors 2. Tremors? Not Tremors 2.
Tremors. No,
Matthew
Tremors 2
McConaughey
is
was
Matthew
Tremors 2.
McConaughey is
Yes.
Tremors 2. Changed my life. Anyway.
Yeah, right? But this is a little campy movie starring Divine.
Okay.
Starring queer icon Tab Hunter. Starring mom from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Lainey Kazan.
Oh, what the fuck is this?
And Jeffrey Lewis, who is a character actor who you see in a bunch of things. I think he was in The Devil's Rejects, actually. He has a very goofy face, Jeffrey Lewis. And this is Lust in the Dust from 1984.
Okay.
And it opens up with this song that is like this country singer singing the song, but the lyrics are like, when he's gone too far, he'll plant no seed. He's just a tarnished tumbleweed. And Divine is on a donkey with a bottle full of gin and a parasol, and she falls off of it, and she ends up having to go. She finds this water, so she's lost her water. She finds this little lake. She jumps into it, and you see on her ass that there's a tattoo of it looks like a map on her butt. And then Tab Hunter shows up playing kind of like this parody of the silent, cowboy figure, and sees her. And then they end up going to this town that she's trying to go to. And they stay in this town for a while. Divine has this like talent for people want to go down on her, and then she ends up breaking their neck with her thighs.
Good for her. Damn, son.
And they get to this town, and it basically is sort of like a parody of Western. So there's like a lot
I was gonna say, I'm looking at the trail, like I'm just looking at some images from it, and like this just looks like it's like a queer like camp making fun of Westerns.
Yes, and so there
Fuck
some
yeah.
of it has definitely not aged incredibly well. And
Oh,
probably
shocking.
at the time.
Shocking.
So like there's a whole lot of offensive stereotypes in this, but I think that it's kind of playing with them a bit. It doesn't necessarily question all of them because I think it's a parody and not a satire.
Yeah.
But there is a whole lot of racist tropes in here that are a little a lot uncomfortable to watch, but like
Okay.
apparently they had offered this movie to John Waters to direct, but he said no because he didn't write it.
Love him. Love that man.
Eventually, like, you find out that so they go to this brothel, and it's owned by Lainey's character. She also, you find out later, has a tattoo of a map on her butt, and when you put them together, it leads to a treasure.
Oh. Okay.
And so there's like this outlaw who's trying to get it, and then there's the silent hero that's trying to get it, and eventually by the end of the movie, there's all these different characters all trying to get to this treasure point and have standoffs, and it's very silly. I love Divine so much. She is actually fantastic in this. More drag queens in movies, please and thank you. I love her presence in I've not actually really seen anything that she'd been in before. I've not seen Pink Flamingos.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I guess I have. I saw the movie version of Hairspray, the non-musical version. And she's
yeah. I was like
the OG one.
The OG one. So weird
so,
that became a musical. Anyway.
I know, right?
Think about that sometimes.
A good musical, though. One of the few that I actually like. But yeah, so it's wild, campy, kind of offensive, but it feels like a John Waters movie.
All right.
And it was good. It's from Vinegar Syndrome, or at least they put it up. I don't know if they still have it. But yeah, that was Lust in the Dust.
Sick. Okay.
Yeah. Worms?
So I'll do this one really quick.
Question mark?
I watched Lair of the White Worm
Okay.
with some friends and Steve over the weekend. Two of our friends who are married and have a small child. We've been wanting to watch. So who am I saying? One of them, her name is Brooke. She was like, I really want to show you Lair of the White Worm. And I was like, I really want to watch it. So we made plans to like order pizza and watch Lair of the White Worm in their house. And I was very excited because this is directed by Ken Russell, who did The Devils, which I will be talking about later in this episode, shockingly. But in reference to Chucky. But this is his...
Sister Agatha.
Yeah, so this is Ken Russell's movie that is an adaptation of a Bram Stoker novel, The Lair of the White Worm, and as is expected from Ken Russell, it's fucking weird and it's fucking horny, and it makes little to no sense, and it was an incredible experience. Basically, very young Hugh Grant is in this, a very young Peter Capaldi.
Oh, wow.
Peter Capaldi plays an archaeologist who is in a small British town, like a small British village, doing that archaeological dig, and he digs up this,
oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My bestie, Nikki, would love this. She's in love with Peter Capaldi.
And he's got like Timothy Chalamet hair. Like, he's so hot in this. Like, he's super young.
That's not him. I'm sorry.
Well, he's still a cutie in this movie.
Yes.
But he unearths this, like, weird skull. And basically, this, like, becomes this whole thing about resurrecting, like, an ancient pagan god. And Amanda Donohoe is in this as, like, the sexiest, wildest fucking character who is, like, very sultry and also partly a snake. And it's very hard to explain this movie because it makes not a lot of sense, but there's just a lot of really good outfits. It's like good, weird folk horror. It's like if that found footage movie, The Borderlands / Final Prayer, it's kind of like that, but campy and insane. It's like if they took that premise not seriously and had a lot of really weird, green screen moments that are terribly made.
Okay.
And it was really good and wild. Like, it's not... Ken Russell movies are weird. It's definitely, like, it's not of a level of The Devils, I will say. Like, have you seen The Devils, Terry?
I love The Devils.
That insane, like, gorgeous production value, perhaps not happening as much here. But it's still really fun. Very much Ken Russell saying, like, love to conflate sex and religion together and make really weird things about people fucking and Jesus and blood. So yeah. Very weird. Very fun movie to watch with friends. And my friend made a dirt pudding for us.
With worms?
Yes! She's like, in honor of Worm. I made us dirt pudding, and it was fucking delicious. So it was, again, very good. Like, these are my friends who do not really like horror movies, but they like this kind of, like, horror movie that's, like, not scary, but just really bizarre. So it's very fun. And a side note, my two horror friends that we watched A Dark and the Wicked with saw Skinamarink. He hated it. Ooh. She loved it. It was very funny to hear the reactions.
Sounds about right. Like, I'm pretty sure that it's you talk to two different people and you're going to get two different responses.
Yeah, so it was very funny. But yeah, so Lair of the White Worm, if you want to watch something fucking weird. I actually don't know where you can watch it.
Let me see.
I'm trying to see if it's... Okay, it's on Tubi and everything. Okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure, but because I had the DVD that I bought when I lived in Chicago. And we forgot about the beauty of DVD menus. So that was fun.
And just as a side note, so that my bestie Nikki doesn't murder me, it's not Peter Capaldi, it's Peter Fasinelli, who was in the Twilight movies.
Oh,
he's been in a lot more.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Wow, the Twilight movies, that unfortunately... Well, those are very different people.
They really are. The moment I saw his picture, I was like, oh no, that is not him.
Absolutely not.
I was like, who is it? I know he was in Twilight. I got to get this right. Yeah. Yeah, two real different guys. Yep. Well, that sounds like fun. I've always wanted to watch that movie. I've never seen it.
So yeah, it's fun. Give it a watch, especially if you have like friends over and you want to just watch something fucking bizarre. But yeah, and wow, we are almost done with Chucky.
Oh my gosh, we got to pour one out for poor Nadine.
Ugh.
Poor Nadine. We knew it was coming.
We did.
We knew she was not going to survive.
It's so sad though.
But it's really sad.
But then now we see that Andy's alive.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's a weird Yellow Jackets cult of Chucky dolls in the woods.
What the fuck? One of them is a cannibal that's
Chucky
been like...
Prime. Collecting ears.
One of them is... The Bald Icon returns. Bald Icon from the first episode. He survived the trip over the canyon with Andy. And now he is filleting him alive and eating his flesh.
And we finally get some not answers, but like acknowledgement of like, oh, what happens when there's no more Chucky dolls left, and wanting to be the only Chucky doll left, and also just like how they all interact with each other and kind of know about each other. So that was good for my lore brain of having. And you were right, that fucking therapist lady.
I knew it.
I love a badass old lady though. She's cool as shit. I love that. We don't usually get like a cool old lady like throwing guns around and like punching the shit out of people, and I appreciate that. I will say, I think that the adults are more interesting to me a little bit than the kids. I'm getting that because I think because we're getting more adult in this one, because we're getting more of like the sides, like we're getting more of the stuff in the back half with like Tiffany / infertility / whatever. And I know we talked about that episode being silly, like the murder mystery episode, but I still think it's a little bit more like engaging than the kids at the boarding school, the boarding school, in my opinion.
I agree. I do think, as I was watching this, that some of this is a little. I think it verged a little too far into camp for me. Particularly, I guess, the first episode that we watched today, where we have Bro Chuck, the big hulking out dude, fighting the good Chuck, and it's like it was a little too much for me. If I'm gonna be
interesting.
Honest.
Okay.
And I was like, this is losing the plot for me.
They're putting a lot in here. Like, there's a lot of things happening. I'm very curious how they're going to be wrapping this up, and then how we're going to have a season 3, because now we're like, there's 2 Chuckies left, or no, 1 Chucky left, right? One good guy doll. Sorry, good guy doll. Because Chucky is inhabiting Nika, obviously, but then also the one
Chucky
Prime is in Nika, and yes, and then there's more Chucky in the good Chucky, who's also evil Chucky.
Pushes Nadine out the window.
And like again, they tell as soon as I think he said the same thing. As soon as she started chasing him up the stairs, it was like, oh yeah, here it comes. Unfortunately,
because they had in the previous episode with them, they had brainwashed one of the Chucky dolls into being good, and as he's like fighting and killing the other Chucky, he's starting to like get his old Chuckiness back, I guess. And by the end of the episode, the second episode that we watched, episode 6, I believe,
6, yeah.
He is like evil, throwing her out of the window. I do love that he says something about how like his favorite killing maneuver is defenestration, because that is such a niche word that I don't think a lot of people know. But like, I just love that he quotes that and just tosses her out the window.
And I continue to love Fiona Dourif as Nika / she's a fucking shining star in this. I wish that we had, like, we're getting more of her now, which is good, but like, she's just so good in the show, especially as she's between to the zone.
Yeah, I love when she is doing the Chucky thing and she is channeling her father. I also love that her father is getting to play around with voices a bit more. Yeah,
exactly. Because like the good Chucky's got like a quieter voice, but then like Chucky, bold Chucky is like has a different affect as well. it is really cool to get to see him play with character.
I will say I am kind of afraid that they're kind of maybe finishing up Nika's storyline. I'm wondering.
I will. Yeah.
Because I have a feeling, because let's be honest, they're not going to destroy the last Chucky doll, because otherwise there would be no more Chucky. So I have a feeling that by the end of this season, Chucky Prime is going to be back in the good guy doll. And I'm wondering what that means for Nika.
Yeah.
I'm really sad that we might not have her anymore, because she is one of my favorites. I think she is like a shining light in this in this series, not just the show.
Yeah. I agree. Going back to the Devils, though, I wanted to just talk about the way that Sister Agatha, that's her name? Like the
well, he calls her Sister Agatha.
That's right, yeah.
I think it's Christine.
She basically worships one of the dolls as, like, God. And it's got very much Devil's vibe of, like, the squeaking when she washes his feet.
Oh, my God. I made a note of that.
I also love at one point when the good Chucky doll is like, "Don't get away from me! I'll hurt you!" And the little shoes go. Wait. It's just like those little moments are just so funny. But
the sound effects are great.
The wild, like, religious ecstasy stuff going on here too is like. And then at one point we get a crucified Chucky doll, or like a quasi crucified Chucky doll. So like the religious imagery really is. Whew. Yeah, it's really there.
I didn't know that I had maybe a kink for... I mean, maybe it's just Devon Sawa dressed up as a priest, but I was like, Father, I'm not Catholic, but I have some confessions to make. Because he's really hot in this.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he's an asshole, but he is very hot. So, all is forgiven.
But you're right. As you're saying this, like, I was thinking about this, the adult characters are a lot more interesting this season than in season 1. I feel like in season 1 they were sort of like made to be, they're gonna die, and so it was like tragic storylines.
Yeah.
But I feel like the characters have more to do with this in this episode, particularly in the last few episodes. It's like, it's not that less people are dying, but it's like there's not as many, like, super, I feel like, impactful deaths yet. I know we still have we have 2 episodes left, and it's starting to pick up with Nadine. But I feel like we don't have as, like, more people are kind of getting multiple episodes and, like, living through stuff, which has been, like, an interesting kind of tonal shift from just, like, the absolute massacre of the first season. Like, this one definitely has a lower body count. Again, for now. I don't know what's going to happen in the last 2 episodes. Who knows? Oh my God. Jennifer Tilly killing Meg Tilly. Oh my God. So iconic. And then Jennifer Tilly, the doll, watching and screaming. Finding out that Jennifer Tilly has been trapped in this doll in the fake Jennifer Tilly, but the real body in her house, just like this entire time. Being fed chocolate and writing fan mail. Yes, and I did love that they kind of bring in, like, real life stuff with this, because the doll Jennifer Tilly is talking about how, she's doing, like, Family Guy voice acting. Oh, online poker. Online poker and Family Guy voice acting to pull in the money. I was like, okay, I see what you're doing, Dawn. That's great. Yep, what a treat. So yeah, the next week we are all caught up on Chucky. Which is wild. Wild ass series. Seriously. Good Lord. But then, who are we chatting with on Monday, Mary Beth? So on Monday, we are chatting with Clayton Jones. He's the co-host of the Men Who Like Movies podcast, and we are talking about Toy Story. Toy Story, a movie that I talk a lot about trauma it gave me about my dolls and making sure they all feel loved. Hooray. Good Lord. And you also pulled out Baby, right? I did pull out Baby, and I can pull her out again. Here she is. She's always here on my desk saying hello. See, if you're our Patreon subscriber, you could see this beautiful bitch. She is beautiful every single way. Words can't oh my God. Oh my God. ASMR. god. Holy shit. Oh my god, I'm turning red.
Anyway.
Holy shit. Taka.
You hear the sound in the middle of the night and you're all alone in your house. What do you do?
Burn the fucker down.
Run. Just evaporate. Like, just leave. Anyway.
That parrot is no more. He ceased to be.
So listeners, there we go. I was like, where'd it go? I could look at my phone, but I'm gonna get there, and I did. I distracted myself with my terrifying baby doll. So listeners, you've heard from us, but we want to hear from you. Did you watch anything that we watched this week and have thoughts? Did you see Cocaine Bear or MILF Manor or We Have a Ghost? Please let us know. Or if you have any suggestions or things we should be covering, you can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, sign up through Patreon, where you could see Baby, and you could see reactions to MILF Manor, and all of the random shit that happens live for your enjoyment.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.